weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast, episode 40. That is Legacy 540. As always, I'm here with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
What up? And we have a bunch of books this week. Me and you have 3. I'll be doing the Ultimate X-Men with Jason, and then I'm going to try to wrangle some other people up because there are a couple books that me and you actually did like. One of them being a tie-in to the Blood Hunt, the Avengers Blood Hunt book.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of did like that when we first read that, but in that we have some bigger books, and I mean bigger, like Spider-Boy. I'm gonna strangle you because of that Spider-Boy. I start reading that Spider-Boy, and I'm like, I don't need these games. I'm an adult here. I'm reading comics, but I am an adult. I was getting so angry. But we also have Deadpool Wolverine WWIII, and of course, Blood Hunt #3. But before we get into that, let me tell everybody where you can find us all over the internet. So you can go to Twitter at Weird Science DC. Follow us. We'll follow you back. You can go to our website, WeirdScienceMarvelComics.com, where Sus Gabe, known as Sus Gabe throughout, Gabe was watching a video of some other comic thing. He never said which one it was or whatnot. And they mentioned Weird Science, and then they also mentioned Sus Gabe, which made me laugh. And also, it's cool because it must be that they were listening or watching us, because we also have a YouTube channel, Weird Science Comics. And then all of that leads to, if you want to help us out, support us, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Weird Science, where you can get a ton of extra shows, some exclusive shows to our Patreon, including an events podcast that me and Matt do, where we're going through Blackest Night right now, but we flip-flop between DC and Marvel with that. So when we get done Blackest Night, we'll be doing a Marvel event, or crisis, as we say. But in that, we're in an event here, and that's what we're going to start with. I haven't loved Blood Hunt so far. It's the idea of the whole play is I don't hate it, but I just forget about it. I mean, it's sad. And we have tons of tie-ins, so it's hard to forget about it. But the idea that you jump into this issue, I even forgot what happened at the end of the cliffhanger of last issue. You kind of get to it right away, but I completely forgot about it. That is a bad sign, but it is Blood Hunt #3, written by Jed McKay, art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marty Garcia, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. I am going to read the intro recap, so everybody is up to speed. Then I'm going to start asking questions. There's going to be a quiz when we get back. The darkness continues, it says. Led by Blade, a group of vampires use the dark force to blot out the sun, creating an eternal night and unleashing violence upon the world. Blade and the Blood Coven, a group of superpowered vampires that I claim we know nothing about, also launched an attack on the Avengers, capturing several members of the team, transforming Black Panther into a vampire and seizing control of the Impossible City, the Avengers' orbital headquarters. Now, a lot of that makes more sense if you were reading the Avengers book by Jed McKay, but I think by now everybody's kind of up to speed on at least what's going on. But luckily, you don't have to know too much about the Impossible City. Unfortunately, we don't know much about the Blood Coven that seem to be, the big bads along with Blade, but we'll get to that in a second. The remaining Avengers allied themselves with Dracula and Blade's vampire hunting daughter Bloodline, along with Tigra, Hunter's Moon, and Spider-Man. They don't say Miles, which I wish they would, and I'm not even throwing out there of any sort of culture war nonsense. When I'm reading this, I immediately just do think of Peter, and I'm like, Peter was in this?
Well, Peter has his own thing, so he's involved.
I completely forgot that it was what happened to Miles until we jump in. But it says the group made their way to Dr. Strange's sanctum to seek his aid. Strange remained trapped in astral form. His physical body having been grievously wounded by Blade during an earlier attack. But before the heroes could formulate a plan, Spider-Man, Miles, began transforming into a vampire. So that was the cliffhanger of last issue. Oh my God, remember, we did see at one point, and I thought maybe it was Blade, and that was like a little bit of, oh no, something's kind of turning me, something's possessing me. And he called Miles over in that first issue, like, hey, let me talk to you. We didn't see what happened, but obviously he did something to infect him and make him a vampire at the end of the second issue. So we get Miles as a vampire, in that cliffhanger. He's screaming and yelling, oh my God, I'm turning into a vampire. So when we jump into this issue, you figure, okay, that'll be a big thing. First off, we don't even go to that first.
Yeah, why? The cliffhanger should start the next issue.
Exactly. And when we do get to it, just as a spoiler, it only lasts 2 pages until they actually at least maybe make Miles be able to control the vampires. We don't even know. It was a weird play with the Eye of Agamotto where Dr. Strange ends up, I can fix this, says, hey, see your true self, all that. And then he kind of is still a vampire. He says, okay, I'm back. But what does that mean? How does that affect him? Does he still have vampire power? I don't know, but we'll get to that in a second, because one of my biggest things in this is we go to the Impossible City, lair of the Lord of all vampires, that is Blade, and he's talking to T'Challa. They're working out their plans. Yeah, I mean, this hologram, why is it so big? It's crazy. Plus, it's so big and also looks like he's sitting on a toilet.
Yep.
But he's like talking, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get the translocation drives and bring them to me. There's this big thing that has been dug up. It hasn't been seen since old Atlantis fell. And this is a big thing. By the end will be the cliffhanger of this issue. But that is what he had sent T'Challa off to get. In the meantime, Scarlet Witch is there in a bit of a force field type deal. And she is talking crap because the Blood Coven has returned. The Blood Coven returns, and she says, I cannot help but notice that your Blood Coven have returned one short. I wonder how that happened. Why don't they mention the name of the Blood Coven member that has gone down?
Yeah,
there was one in the last issue. I remembered that, but I didn't remember the name. And I'm just, before anybody goes and looks up anything, I'm sure there'll be people out there who knows it, obviously. But I think that for a majority of people, I'll have 2 questions. What's the name of the Blood Coven member that went down? And what are their powers set? And how does the destruction of them affect the Blood Coven? It is, and I'll just, I should have the music.
Well, you told me earlier, and I don't remember what you said.
It's Megrim. Megrim is the one that Vision grabbed and flew up out of the, remember they punched holes in the Dark Force covering, which I also said, why don't you just keep doing that? But they ended up flying Megrim out, and she ended up dying. But what's her power set? How does this, like the Blood Coven, if you would, obviously we know the Avengers, but if one of the Avengers goes down, you could at least say, oh no, well now they won't be able to do this. Or, oh, that person was good at that. But Megrim, we hardly knew ye. How does Megrim going down affect anything? And they just move by. And why didn't somebody say, like Blade say, what? And goes, where's Megrim? And then explain a little recap. It only takes a sentence. Oh, they got her. That crazy android got her. Whatever. Don't even mention. It's just pushed aside. And a lot of things in this issue are just pushed aside. Like from there where we go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and there is Miles, full out vampire. Everybody is cowering. They don't know what to do. And you just end up getting the Crimson Bands of Sidorak from Clea. And then Astral Dr. Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto, show him the truth, and boom, two pages. So you didn't even start with the cliffhanger. And then that big cliffhanger of, oh my God, what are they going to do? Miles. Oh, I love Miles. Oh, he's back. Kind of. Because he says, I'm back. And then the big thing is, oh my God, he told me to hunt for her, and I couldn't fight. And the whole thing of her is bloodline. Yeah. It's Blade's daughter. So what then happens is, and again, they don't really spell out like, okay, Miles, now you're still infected, but you can control it, nothing. He just kind of crouches around for the rest until he gets mad. So in the meantime, they turn to Bloodline and say, hey, by the way, we need you to strike down your father, Blade. And she's like, what? She's like, what? She's all, and they even say, you're our only hope. She's the Luke Skywalker of all of this, the Ben Kenobi. Only hope, but we don't know why. You never tell us why. So what's the deal? And then in the meantime, because she is kind of surprised, they actually kind of yell at Dracula and say, Dracula, why didn't you tell her? Why didn't you tell her that Blade was the big bad of all this? And he said, really? And actually says, you really think that would have worked out well? if I would have told her. And they say, well, then tell her. And he does. He explains it. And then they all throw shade at him for explaining it. It's so ridiculous. Plus, they have said, and this is a trope that drives me nuts, they said that Bloodline is their only hope. She is the big thing. Somehow, during story time, nobody sees her walk away. She's right there with them, and nobody saw. She ran out. She just runs. You see her in the distance running. Nobody saw this. She opened the door and left. Everybody's like, they were so enthralled. I'll tell you, Dracula, hell of a storyteller. Like, they were really into that story, which they all knew, but she runs away. This is all tropey cliches, ways of making the characters separate, have this person mad, whatever, because now Miles, who just ended up getting the Eye of Agamotto, turning back into a vampire that he can, we don't know, he runs off. He's pissed, and he runs off in a way of saying, oh, Dracula, you jerk, you shouldn't have told her. Says, you, Dracula, tell her that she has to strike down her dad, and you expect her to believe you? He was told to do that. He said he wasn't going to tell in the meantime. And then Miles runs off. And then Dracula has to go chase him. Everybody's chasing everybody.
Why is she the one that has to do it?
We don't know. I don't know.
She's not going to do that.
Yeah. They'll figure out something before then. And also, just to point out, it's kind of ridiculous that the be-all, end-all of this event could end up being Blade's daughter.
Yeah,
Bloodline.
exactly.
A character that not many people care about. I think she's cool in this. I like her design. But the Danny lore book I thought was complete, as the French say, garbage. So Miles runs off. Dracula is soon to follow. Everybody's screaming, yelling. Then the Midnight Mission, Tigra, and Hunter's Moon are like, we want to do some things ourselves, so we're going to gather up an army. Can you send us away? Yeah, we can do that. It's just to separate everybody so that they could do their own thing. And then in the meantime, the Avengers are like, yeah, I think we're going to fight, but we have another idea as well. And Stephen and Claire are going to go and do their thing, maybe try to get a hold of the Darkhold. They kind of mention that they have an idea, and you had even told me maybe that has to do with that kid in the Strange Academy time. We'll have to see.
Yep.
But the Avengers are going to go off, and Carol has an idea. I don't get it. I'm telling you, if I'm in a world where we're being taken over by vampires and people that I know and love are being turned into vampires and I'm scared, I do not need a guy telling me to tighten up my bootstraps and fight back. I'm either already going to be fighting back or I've already crapped my pants so many times. My house is full of it. I don't know. But she ends up saying, hey, you got to get on all the frequencies and gather up the world, get the troops going. And it ends up being the classic of any sort of trophy cliche. It's what's
they did that in Wonder Woman too.
Yeah, it's Independence Day.
Movie.
Everybody's chasing that Independence Day stupid speech, and even that was from other things. It's so
and
cliche.
also the broadcasting to all different channels at one time is stupid too. It's
impossible. And they have it that it's translating and stuff like that. Here's what I'm doing. I'm sitting there, and first off, it's a vampire. Who's watching TV? I could just sit there. Maybe you're watching the news and it cuts in,
news.
But not me. I'd be like, holy crap, I'm done. Oh no, why are they interrupting Barney Miller? I'm sitting there watching that. So the idea, though, is I'm watching this speech, and all I would be thinking of is, why are you wasting time doing this speech? Start killing vampires, you jerks. You're the Avengers. Come on, do something. But you end up where Jed MacKay loves these terms. And he loves to go with this idea of the icon and the wizard and this and that. Always keeps doing it so that he can then have villains to mimic that and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't like it. Yeah, the idea of, hey, Sam Wilson Cap, he's supposed to do the speech because he's the icon. He's like, I don't know what to say. Just say, basically, his speech is, hey, everybody, we're getting attacked and we got to fight back. And if they're watching, we're going to fight you. All right, what this is supposed to be the idea of getting Blade so upset that he comes down from the impossible city to fight.
But it just makes him mad, and he does whatever he does at the end.
And Carol says, I know Blade, he's cool. This Blade isn't. We know that he is being possessed. I think there is a subtle deal at the end where Blade starts talking like Blade has never talked, but the idea of this whole event has kind of got me gun shy of thinking things like that. It might just be poorly written, but I think Jed MacKay's a better writer because at one point he either bought a thesaurus or somebody is completely controlling him. But in my mind, if you are Blade, if you're a compromised Blade, you just ended up having this big thing that you got from Atlantis, all this stuff going on. And there's a speech that they say, hey, we're going to beat you. We're going to get you, you vampire jerks. Like, I'd laugh. I mean, this is the idea of, it's almost as cliche as when you have the World Series and like, hey, what do you think of the, I think we're going to try our best and we're going to try to win. That's all it seemed to me to be. But yet it's like played out page after page after page.
Yeah, that was a long speech.
Other characters like, way to go, Sam. I'm like, I mean, way to go. He's just saying just this basic bitch stuff. And so you end up, and even at the end, he's like, we will avenge the dead. We will protect. Go and do it. I don't need your lip service.
He says Captain America out.
Captain America out.
Seacrest out.
Yeah, I want him to try to drop the mic, but it actually like hits him in the knee, hurts him because it's so lame. And then they're all like, it's like mission accomplished. Like they think this is a win. But Blade does. I love the idea that they want Blade to come down. They're going to fight Blade. And instead what he does is like, okay, well, I'm going to get that whatever, because we don't know just yet, of what we got from the Atlantean ruins under Atlantis, all these things going on. Just plop that down in New York City. It's the temple of the first blasphemy.
Everybody's dead. And
yeah, I mean, you see it coming down and just squash it. These people who died, poor them for this speech. But it clunks down, but you don't know what that is. Like, there's the cliffhanger. It looks crazy enough, but again, I'm left more with a shrugging my shoulder and like, what's going on here than anything else. And this is a middle kind of issue. It felt like it, but boy, a lot of it was a speech from Sam just saying, everybody, the Avengers are going to fight. You should fight. We all fight. And then just mentioning other events. You know, hey, when Null came down, we kicked his butt, right? There's somebody out there that lost everybody to Null.
Hydra.
And the King and... Oh, no.
The Kotati, remember them?
Yeah, the Kotati, all that nonsense. Didn't mention
and then, what do you think the Red Band issue is like? There's nothing good to be in that.
I would say the Red... that would be a fun guess of what we... I would say the Red Band issue might add a page or two with Miles.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that would be that. And then possibly, I don't know. Maybe what it is it's like speaking for the effing Avengers. Like every 3 words he curses. Yeah. And really show it out there. Like, you know, that'd be pretty good.
Because there's no violence in this.
I don't want wingdings. I want full out cursing. You know, like, and in weird spots too. This effing world has seen effing evil time effing and time effing again. Yep. Like, I want him to go full out, but the art's pretty good. It looks okay. But overall, it was kind of a nothing issue that kind of got me irritated because of the fact that we're 3 issues into this, you know, the main book, and a lot of people are only reading the main book. You're not explaining things. You're not telling us why things are happening, and you're not telling us, you know, what is, like I said, Megrim. You don't even mention the name, and I don't know the Blood Coven. I don't know how it affects them. You don't know what Megrim.
Well,
maybe Megrim is like really good at making Kool-Aid or something when they end up having a party. I don't know.
Well, when they have the characters at the beginning, you said they should have the X across her face.
They should have Megrim there and crossed out. That's what they always do when a character's dead, especially in an event like this. And you should even have where you have Spider-Man. You should have Miles Morales, Spider-Man. You should have like a symbol if they're turned into vampires. You could have that as well. And I think that would have been a cool play, too, to keep kind of a scorecard.
Absolutely.
This ends up at this point where I'm getting that weird feeling as we had with Gang War. Remember when we're like, we don't even know what's happening. Like, who's this? Who's there? What's going on? And I'm kind of getting that, and it should be bigger. What would you give it?
I'm going to go 6.5. I'm sure you're lower. Yeah, 6.
I just am a 6.
Yeah, 6.5.
Again, the things that I'm irritated with are just, I want them to maybe enjoy it more or understand it more. It's not awful. It just kind of feels flat. It kind of just doesn't have a spark to it.
That's how the Avengers run has felt for me since the beginning. Kind of flat.
Like, it's a vampire story, but where are the stakes?
Mm-hmm. Who ordered the steak?
Right? Who did order the steaks? I need that. All I have is this.
Are you an angel?
I don't know. So with all that, 6. You have a 6.5. So we're still hanging on by a thread of trying to enjoy this, but it really needs to pick up because I don't think that what we have read from the tie-ins that they're really going to carry it any more than they can either. Some of them have been cool. I liked the the Wolverine one last week.
Yeah,
we
that was cool. I just
it.
read that one. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good because it tied into some things from Ben Percy's run and just felt like you could kind of read it on its own. But we did again, I'll try to get somebody to do the Avengers tie-in because we liked that first one. We thought it was pretty fun. That's a Jed MacKay one. But some of the others weren't.
I just don't buy Blade as the big bad at all.
They don't even show him too much.
But when Brandon accurately predicted that he would be leader of the vampires, I think he meant that he would be a good leader, not a bad one.
Maybe. I don't know. I think he meant that he was good because I think I even argued there's no way they'd let him go bad. I don't remember. I wish I could find, now that you said that, is where, here's Blade. Here's Blade's dialogue. Now, you tell me if this sounds like it's something that Blade would say or if it sounds weird. He says, your friends have decided that they will not simply lie down and die, which I can forgive, but they have had the temerity to try to inspire hope.
Nobody says that.
No. And that's that. And then says, and that I cannot countenance.
Nope.
Not when my tribe. That is not Blade. So if it is, there's problems. But I think that
Abe Lincoln
again. What I think is the first vampire who is ancient and would talk in a very maybe fancy way like that. That's why I think, and I think
George
that might
Washington?
be a subtle tell. Exactly. Ben Franklin, nude vampire. It's what he is. We can tie in the Redcoat book from over at the Ghost Machine on that. But yeah, I would not think that would be a Blade type of, yelling or trash talking. Also, again, why he's mad is he says that, oh man, that speech is going to give him hope. What the hell do you care? You're winning. As far as I can see, you're winning. What do you care about hope?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. But that's them. There's the checklist too. We got a lot left.
Oh man,
a 10 left, but only 5 books in this, which scares me. We only have 2 more issues, so something has to happen. But we shall see. We shall see. But we're going to move on to the next book, and the next book is Deadpool Wolverine. WWIII number 2 of 3. We actually looked it up right before to make sure it doesn't seem like at the end of this that there is a lot going on to go to in issue 3. I don't really know exactly everything that's happening in this. We lost our minds doing the first issue. We weren't going to review it, but then Adam Kubert actually, gave us a bit of a thumbs up that we were trying to get through it and said that eventually everything will make sense. The road to that is pretty good art-wise. I mean, this art is incredible.
Top-notch.
That's what would be most superb, as they say. That's most of my score.
Yeah, of course.
Is that because even this, I do end up, and I'll give Mr. Kubert there a shout-out as well, but doing it then, I thought that I really have to dig deep here and try to get what this is. I kind of get a little bit of what it's about. Now, that's going to end up where I decide, is it worth, the story, or is it a compelling story? I don't know, but it does have a pretty good Deadpool moment where he kind of, tells it as it is and is a sad guy and wishes that he wasn't so goofy and can't get out of his way. Almost plays out a bit like a kind of like an autistic type deal that I know well about, or something around those things of, I can't help how I am. I want to change it, but is that really him? And I think that, you even have that through Wolverine, who says, I hate Deadpool so much, but this isn't him. This doesn't, it actually reminds me what this is in my life. It's when my wife made me go on Zoloft and I was walking around like a zombie. I had nothing going on.
Exactly.
I was just walking like a robot, but that kind of is. And I think the play here too, in the art and story wise, having him with that helmet on, once he takes it off, it's horrific. But having the helmet, it doesn't even, give you the feel. It feels more like a robot. But it is, like I said, it's Deadpool Wolverine, WWIII, written by Joe Kelly, art by Adam Kubert, colors by Frank Martin, DC's Joe Sabino on letters. I'm going to do a recap here because it does give you some info that we didn't know.
Yeah,
including why the name of the book is what it is. So after teaming up with Wolverine to take down a superpowered serial killer in Vancouver known as WWIII, Deadpool mysteriously disappeared. Following a trail of clues that Deadpool seemed to have left intentionally, Wolverine came upon a strange cliffside compound in Russia, where an apparent audience was waiting for him. No mention of that crazy villa of Deadpool-esque nonsense. But more importantly, they were waiting for the reveal of the newly enhanced Deadpool, now known as Wade Wilson III, third time's a charm. At least, according to the inscrutable voice of the one taking credit for the transformation, brandishing energy powers similar to Wither. WWIII, and I'm telling you, I even read that. I'm like, Wade Wilson, okay. I'm a third, so I'm JW3. Maybe they'll make a book of me. Attack
Nice.
Wolverine, much to the amusement of the onlookers, but Wolverine fought back even as the trapdoor opened, dropping the two down the sheer face of the cliffs, which really didn't matter much. They end up down below the cliffs, and their drones filming them. You have some crazy plays because you have gauntlets on Wade, all these things going on, and at one point, Wolverine rips off Deadpool's arm, which kind of almost feels like a Looney Tunes type gag, but then it digitizes back.
It was hard to tell what was going on there.
Yeah, a lot of these things aren't well explained or what's going on, but really all that's happening here is there's a bunch of rich jerks, and, that's common. They're sitting around, instead of eating humans or hunting them because they want to hunt the most dangerous game, they're actually dressed up in an eyes wide shut virtual reality party where they're watching this fight going on, seemingly because they want to see this. They are funding the research that our main villain Delta is doing, and it is to make you your best version, quote unquote. Unfortunately, Deadpool having that done, it does a lot of wacky stuff to him, but he did mention in the first issue a lot of, he wants to be an X-Men. He wants to be on the Avengers, but he's always a goof. Everybody doesn't take him seriously, and that seems to be pretty much the bad. And I think that what we're getting here throughout this and by the end is Joe Kelly kind of, going, are you better served to try to change for what people want, or should you just be yourself, even if yourself is annoying to everybody around you? And as I said, it also feels like it's going a little bit into another realm as well, like a Spectrum type deal. But you end up where the art's great. I mean, you see this one panel where Wolverine's just ripping and destroying Deadpool, and it looks fantastic.
Oh, that's crazy.
It looks fantastic. Yeah. And then while that's going on, you end up where Joker's daughter, it looks like, this girl comes in, and she ends up where she has the power where she opens up her yap, and then when she closes it, a portal is made and sends people, off. I didn't quite get exactly what was happening until Wolverine says, man, she teleported us.
It's like a big Cheshire cat mouth opens up and sucks them somewhere.
Looking like, yep. And so they end up in the middle of Russia. They're like in Siberia, wherever it would be. I don't know the exact lay of the land, but they end up there. Now they have to fight for survival. And this is like the next phase. Some of the crowd, they don't like that. They want it full out Fight Club. And now they're getting Survivor. And this isn't what they want. But Delta says, no, this is the next phase of things. This is what's going on. Now, one of the things going on is, why is Wolverine there? And he kind of figures out that Wade, once this started, kind of realized it might have been going wrong and got a hold of Wolverine at the last second and left these clues kind of to get him there. But that also felt like that was a dupe to get him there just to fight, to get the people all excited. But Wolverine, while he hates Deadpool, he doesn't like people doing, Weapon X type things.
Of course not. He hates that.
That's what it triggers him with that. So in the meantime, as I said earlier, he gets a little disturbed that Wade isn't talking. He's not saying his usual nonsense. A couple times he keeps saying, boy, we're in a pickle. Like, that was one thing. But it's not what he would normally say, and it actually starts to upset.
Well, also, he
Wolverine.
doesn't talk. Wade usually just talks nonstop.
Now, as this is going on, we're going to get to a point where he's starting to be a little more, but is that because we don't really know what they did to Deadpool to do this, except kind of push the cancer up and trying to get the bad versus the good going. But it does seem like in a time frame, you will lose a bit of this. That's probably why Wither, that we had in that first issue, kind of went rogue, and they had to hunt him down. And a lot of people actually got that and said to us when we had our video, at least on YouTube, saying, I think that was somebody who escaped. They had to bring him down. Wade was kind of pretending this. It was a weird play because we had no idea what was going on in that first issue. It was so wacky. I said, this one, you get a little more, but it's still, I don't know. You're walking across Siberia, and in that you have those drones following them, and they kind of don't really react to them. I'd be trying to bring those things down immediately.
Of course.
Yeah. And then even thinking like, hey, maybe they'll do a food drop or something, but there's no food.
I think they're walking for what they said 7 weeks.
Yeah, they're walking for a
that?
while. Yeah, seriously. I mean, maybe they're starved for entertainment. It's like the crazy thing. They've watched everything on Netflix already. They need this. It's just, walking the barren. It's not even a good, they're walking a barren wasteland. Who would be watching that? Now you say that, holy moly, but there's no food. Wolverine's there's no animals. He can't sense that. He can't smell anything. He can't track it. He doesn't necessarily need it as much, but Wade, he's a little off and looks like he's going to die. They mention healing factor until they don't, but then they do. And then in that, you do have, I guess, one of the crazy scenes in this is that suddenly there's food to be eaten. You figure right away, Wolverine is cut off his leg or an arm, whatever. You don't really see.
No, he chopped off his leg. They show it.
Yeah, did they show it? I didn't even see that the leg was. I figured it was his
over
thigh.
To the right. He's you can see his adamantium bone.
Yeah, so, and you could tell, it reminded me, I told you before we started, it reminded me of the Old Man Logan when they ended up the cannibals grabbed Logan and ended up using it as an all-night buffet, because if you just flay him, it grows back, and they could keep doing that. But, I mean, it's disgusting, but you have to do what you got to do. It's kind of like the Brazilian soccer team. Was it Brazilian? I don't even remember.
I was going to say Brazilian steakhouse, but
yeah,
you
I was
said Brazilian
saying it's
soccer
from
team.
the movie Alive when they crashed, but maybe that's where they got the idea for the steakhouse too. It might have actually been the Argentinian team. Now
I think it was Argentinian.
Yeah, so you end up where he's trying to keep Wade alive by feeding him himself, and then when he goes to eat, Wolverine. In a non-sexy way, I have to tell you, he takes off his mask, and that's horrific. I mean, he's the Elephant Man times 10.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely.
But it does make you sad, and he says, look at it, and Wolverine doesn't really react. I'll give Wolverine a lot of credit. It seems like he's got a lot of feels for what Deadpool's going. He doesn't tell, get that mask back on. That'd be me. I'm so insensitive. Be like, whoa, buddy.
I'm trying to eat here, man. Put that mask back on.
I don't like to go around. I want it to not feel like a piece of crap. I want it to not be the joke. I want it to actually have people take me serious. I want it to do these things. Third time's the charm. Even Wolverine says it at that point. But he was willing to go this far just to be normal, and says that he kind of got Wolverine, and Wolverine inspired him. And Wolverine's the guy who, even though you have the same deal, and it's about the healing factor and all that as well, that he said, maybe I should have just died of cancer, but you kind of inspired me. I saw how well you put it together, and I thought I could be like you, but I really can't. And it is some nice feels in that. And they talk, and he's crying, which made me kind of feel for him.
I know.
But then as that's going on, it's almost like this is the most entertaining part. Not to the eyes wide shut jerks. They don't like this, I guess, because that's when Delta, that girl, and a giant crazy snowflake.
They're like, we got to ramp this up. We need ratings.
Yeah, we need something in here. The ratings are going down, and we can't have that. And so they come in, and you're going to end up having the snowflake, this
that thing
giant
is huge.
Wolf, bear, I don't know, ape monster with 4 eyes, just nonsense. It's humongous and keeps getting more and more. It's I'm not scared. That's the big thing it keeps saying.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah, so in the meantime, it just goes and attacks, and you get a prolonged thing. But that's the most action in the issue, and Wolverine just gets demolished. At one point, it's just imprinted.
His head is squished in there.
Oh, it's squished in. It looks great.
His ribs are showing.
Horrific. And the idea of that, where you have this guy, Delta, goes over to Deadpool and says, we can reset this. We can start over. I'm like, I don't know if I'd want that now. But he says, you could still be a person that society looks at as great. We could just do this. And while that's going on, the one page where you see Wolverine coming out of the crater that was made with him, and his ribs are there. It's so disgusting in that. But at that point, this snowflake monster then grabs Deadpool and just starts ripping him apart.
Ripping off limbs and legs.
At the one point, Wolverine is like, I gotta go get Wade. He's taking a breather as pieces of Wade are getting thrown on top of other pieces, because this big thing then is, and it looks like it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
It's eating them too.
Oh yeah, it's vicious, this thing.
Rips his
head
off.
Delta and them, they're out, and the big play is this snowflake who keeps saying, I'm not afraid, ends with, you are afraid. I'm like, damn right. I think Wolverine is. But
it's
again,
stomped on Deadpool too.
Yeah. You see that. So it's crazy. So we have to see what happens. But it is the finale. Even the cover of next issue looks great. It does look like that.
I want to see Kubert doing the Incredible Hulk, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. So it's a weird issue. I think I understand it more this issue. That doesn't mean I love it. I see the game that they're doing. I thought there was a good moment with Wolverine and Deadpool, but overall I still am wondering, besides the art, why I'm kind of reading it. The art though is worth it. It's really, really good. But What would you give it?
I'm higher on this one, and I've read it twice. We talked about it. I'm at a 6, so I've definitely gone up. I'm more interested.
I'm at a 6.5.
Okay, good.
I really liked. I mean, I'm telling you, when I read something like when Deadpool's talking, I'm not crying. I'm an adult. I'm a man. But I actually got choked up a bit, and I actually thought, you know what? These are the kind of stories where there are times when you can delve into Deadpool and not just be jokes. And this is one of those.
He's not joking at all.
And even sometimes when you joke, one of my favorite moments ever, I think I've mentioned it a bunch of times, is when Deadpool doesn't want to show his face to Gabby, Honey Badger / Scout, whatever. And when he does, and she has scars, and she says, I think you're beautiful. I think you look great. And they become best friends. And it always got me. I really like that moment. So there are moments that you can have with Wade, where you can really delve in, because look at the guy and all the things that go into it. And when he actually gets a little serious and talks about his true feelings, again, which he can't, he even says in this, where when he's upset and things bother him, when he's normal Deadpool, he makes it a joke. He pushes it aside. But when he's he's actually dealing with it. So it is that play of, is that better or worse or whatnot? So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that part a lot too. I negative points for me, just so we don't forget. Delta's backstory, don't care at all about that.
Yeah, you have that, and sideways pages.
And the sideways pages are insane. Bad.
And I know that it only takes me to go and make sure that my screen doesn't.
You have to lock it. Yeah.
I'm telling you though, I'm a lazy guy. I don't want to do it. It just, that ends up it pulls you out, and it happens inside. Like the first couple pages, okay, I got it. Then
it's a 12-panel grid on one page. It's too much.
Yeah, it looks great though, but still, and like you said, I don't really care about Delta. All this is rich jerks trying to do something, and there you go. Right? You could have had Delta show up on Gilligan's Island and done the same thing, and at the end they don't, rescue the castaways. That's all. I think this guy's just going to disappear at the end. They're going to go and try to get the compound, again. And it won't be there. It'll be digitized or something, or it'll be chomped by Joker's daughter. But we're going to move on to the last book that me and you are going to be talking. It is one of the books that we have been a big supporter of. Last issue I thought was a little down. This issue is playing games, but we'll get to that right now. And this is Spider-Boy number 8. This book feels like it's, I don't know, treading water to an end. It doesn't feel like it has much going on anymore. I thought that we were going to move on from the story since we had kind of it felt like a bit of a finale. I did say we're going to have to figure out how to get Christina back from being a pigeon and things like that. But I didn't quite think that we were going to spend yet another issue just hanging out on the farm, trying to do that with a Peter Parker Spider-Man who seems to have bought a new joke book that he should return and get his money back from, and all these wacky things, including puzzles. But this is, as I said, Spider-Boy number 8, written by Dan Slott, art by Jason Liu, colors by Eric Arciniega, VC's Joe Caramagna. On letters, I've been reading. I'm going to go on. I'm going to read the recap. I've been doing it since, and maybe we'll start doing it. I used to do it when we had the show, me and Jason. But Spider-Man has been searching night and day. There's still no sign of either Spider-Boy or his friend Christina Xu. Fortunately, as a humanimal pigeon, Christina can talk to pigeons and sent one to find Spider-Man and deliver the message that she and Spider-Boy are imprisoned at Stillwell Farms, the lair of Madame Monstrosity. Spider-Man isn't Spider-Boy's only superhero friend, so he recruits Miles Morales, Squirrel Girl, and Tippy Toe, toy soldier that I didn't or forgot was named Tippy Toe.
No, Squirrel Girl and Tippy Toe.
Oh, and Tippy Toe.
Toy soldier.
I got the Tippy Toe.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot about Tippy Toe. Now I feel like a jerk. Toy Soldier, Thor, that's a better name, and Captain America to help. Meanwhile, when a livid Madame Monstrosity strikes him in frustration, Spider-Boy has a vision of her under attack. The rescue team has arrived, and Madame Monstrosity transforms herself into a multiple humanimal monster, which, by the rules that they're saying here, will never be able to be turned back, and called herself the Monstrosity to fight them. Our heroes prevail, but the Monstrosity is saved by the High Evolutionary, which all she was doing was trying to get his attention anyway, but he didn't seem so nice to her at the end of last issue, only to become his next test subject. That's how you can get out of it. The humanimals are free from Madame Monstrosity's control, but can they ever become human again? So what they end up after all of this, and the idea that Madame Monstrosity, she didn't seem like they thought that she was trying to figure out how to turn them back. But then the reveal was she really wasn't. But in the meantime, you would think she would be, because that's what she was trying to prove to the High Evolutionary, because of what she forgot when Spider-Boy disappeared from the timeline. It's all convoluted a bit, but we kept saying this was more of an all-ages book, but I was enjoying it. And I'm not saying I don't like all-ages books, but it felt like it still had some oomph. It still felt like overall it might have some impact on the 616, even if it's just a goofy deal that you can have. Now with Superior Spider-Man kind of ending, and he was kind of in that as well, and now this, I don't know. It feels like maybe you should have had a mini-series, see how that goes, and then maybe Dan Slott gets some other ideas, and then you come back later with whatever the case may be, but it's not doing anything. And I wanted to get to Madame Monstrosity, but even that kind of ended in a thud for this issue then for them to try to figure out how to turn everybody back. So you end up where Spider-Man gets called in. Peter, he's smart. He's there with a lab coat on.
Yeah,
that
he's
makes
wearing
you
a lab
even smarter,
coat, so,
right?
Yep.
And also, you do end up having some, pretty cool minds. You got Dr. Jeremy Stillwell, Madame Monstrosity's husband, who really has the most motivation of everyone because his wife done stepping out with the High Evolutionary. Like, how much can he sit there and get cuckolded by the idea of her doing everything for the High Evolutionary? So he's going to help.
It's weird, too, because he's an owl, like an actual owl, not an owl man.
Yeah,
like
remember, and that's the separate deal of them. And that's the thing. I think that the way they play that is how they explain with Bailey and Boy Spider. I don't think he can be turned back either because you have that separate deal. Remember, his human form who just sits and eats mice, just disgusting.
Yeah.
But also has Mr. Cricket. And who could forget Mr. Squeakerton? I mean, they have all the high minds of the MCU. But in the meantime, Peter is making jokes left and right, and they are cringe. They are not good. Maybe you can say they're good for kids. I don't know. They felt more like old man Dan Slott dad jokes because they say, how can you fix the DNA process of this? And he goes, well, what you do is you scan for DNA and then flip around the letters until it spells and.
Query, are you serious?
Are you serious? You have the... And then they're like, oh man, like Peter should be able to do it. At one point, he ended up having all those arms. And then he gives a thumbs up and he's like, look, I did heal myself from those arms. I'm only giving you 1 thumbs up, not 6.
Yep.
That didn't work either. And then you get Toy Soldier, who is the coolest of the bunch. But then Toy Soldier says he ends up having the smarts of every Avenger ever. And it's Ant-Man, Iron Man, and the Beast. He's got the scientific genius. Yeah, you're throwing all that in. Okay, but he doesn't really do much. But really what happens now is that they figure out the play. We don't really know what it is. They just hit a bunch of buttons and have seemingly built like this crazy device outside. And if you get in, you get reverted back. And Christina, who seemed to really take to work in the fields, we said before, tilling
she gave that up pretty fast here.
Yeah, she's like, maybe she just doesn't like the overalls, but I think she wore them there. But she's like, okay, I'll do it. She does get separated with the pigeon. Her and the pigeon are great. But in the meantime, we have a puzzle. And this came up, and I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? You're going to connect the animal with the hybrid, and it's like so basic that I thought that it was a joke, but I don't know. It might be still.
You start off easy on the puzzles. You got to start off.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, what we do also have is the page bends, kind of turns, and we see, oh no, Puzzle Man is here. and Puzzleman from Captain America 260 that you ended up looking up, and I'm going to check. It's a classic character there. Said it has the same design, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So Puzzle Man shows up and is like, I'm going to end up making puzzles here because you guys might get bored. And I'm like, no, Puzzle Man, I'm not playing your game. I'm moving on. And we'll get a little bit of a story with Puzzle Man. But in the meantime, Christina is turned back to herself. She jumps into Spider-Boy's arms and they hug and everything's great. But the idea of what are you going to do now? Bailey still doesn't have anybody remembering him. And he wants to turn back to just being Bailey. He says, I'm going to be a normal Bailey. And then my mom, who has this love of Boy Spider as a monstrosity, she'll love me. She'll remember me. Once she sees me, actually me, even though he could kind of take his mask off and do that, but he ends up saying, I'm going to do that. And then Spider-Man says, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because if you do that, the book's over. Like, you can't have that and continue. He goes, oh, didn't you know? We can't do that with you because if we do that, then that would rip apart Boy Spider and Boy Spider's loved by your mom, Tabby. It's just to keep.
And the mom is just, Tabby is so cold towards Spider-Boy. Like, give him a chance. It's the idea
where she does admit, like, I like Boy Spider for some reason that I don't understand.
I'm not really that's not
realizes
her mom.
It must be from what you're saying, but I don't remember you. Like,
I don't care about you.
How long have you been there mothering Boy Spider? Like, it hasn't been that long. You might actually get to like Bailey. In the meantime, Boy Spider is a monstrosity that I want to end up. Somebody's got to put him out of his misery. He's there with those arms. Oh, my God.
Like wrapped around her.
Yeah. So, but in the meantime, you can't do anything with Boy Spider, but his mom, she's going to jump in and she's going to get the cat taken out of her, which may mean she's more brave. You get that joke. But you end up where she comes out and she's like, I'm human again. I'm human. Now I'm going to go off with this monstrosity. Yay. That's basically it.
Do you think the animals run off, or did she take the cat with her and live the rest of her life with it?
I'm sick of this cat. Would know exactly what the cat wants. And
exactly.
Like
a nice relationship.
That cat is needy. Like right into the woods. But then Bailey comes and he actually shows himself. He's like, oh, here I am. You're mom again. I recognize you're my mom. And she's like, yeah, I wish I could. She's like, can you actually like be my mother? Nah, not really.
No, but I'm telling you, you're really my mom. I don't care.
And she's like, I don't remember it. I don't know. Like,
so messed up.
So cold. And
it's like, so if you get amnesia, you're just all of a sudden they're not your kids anymore.
But the weird thing is that could happen. But then why then on the side are all of a sudden you're treating this other? So weird.
Yeah, why is that your
She
kid?
says, I feel this compulsion to be motherly to this monstrosity, but you built. Sorry, kid. And he gets an idea. I need something, because at one point he does end up saying, oh my God, everybody was here that helped out that I ended up teaming up with. It's almost like the end of the Wizard of Oz. And you were there, were there, but except Santa. And they mention, and it makes sense, Santa's hibernating. So in the meantime, Bailey says, wait a minute, Santa actually gave me that picture of my family, and it's magic. So if I can find the picture, if I can go back and get it, I'll show it to her. I'm telling you, at this point, I'm moving on. I would be so upset about this. Like the idea that his mom, while she can't even give it a shot.
No.
Like say, well, let's hang out. Maybe we can, I can remember something, or I'll go. No, she's like, sorry, but he's going to go
rejection.
Back. Yeah, he's going to go back to Feast and try to get that. In the meantime, you can have Christina go back to what we are convinced are awful parents. Those parents were not nice.
The worst.
But you end up where we then head off to the Daily Bugle, and this is where we see Puzzle Man, and it's actually Chris Crossman. And every time I'm going to say, I expect him to turn his pants backwards and start yelling, everybody jump, jump, or something like that, Chris Crossman. But he's getting
R.I.P.
He ends up where this going half at least. You end up where he's the puzzle guy at the Daily Bugle, but online the puzzles are glitching. That's where I thought the puzzles might be a little bullcrap, But the idea of glitching puzzles, he wants revenge. He doesn't know who's doing that, but then he's against everybody. It's not really well played out. It's just a way to get these puzzles. So he's like, I'm going to get out of here. And you know who I'm going after? This. And it's supposed to be a puzzle where you don't know that you're looking on his computer screen that is not Spider. If somebody does not know that that's not Spider-Boy, you are not all ages. I mean, you're under the deal.
Yeah.
You see it is, and then when you get these puzzles, it does have like the next page, and the next page, Ellie, the editor. The hidden image was on the previous page was Spider-Boy. I wish it said obvious Ellie.
Looks like, what was that, Ultraman or something like that, maybe?
Yeah. It does look, but you could tell it's
I know.
Spider-Boy, right? So you end up having that, but in the meantime, the Daily Bugle, Robbie gets word, hey, Spider-Boy, we have this deal. Spider-Boy's heading to Feast. Get somebody down there stat. Spider-Man has come and told me that he's not that bad, so let's maybe get a fluff piece going. I don't know. But you do end up where Chris Crossman, he grabs his Puzzle Man outfit, pretty crazy, and heads off to do nefarious things with his giant pencil. So he's going to go off there with his giant pencil, and we go to Feast. Christina is reunited with her awful parents, and we say awful because they kept yelling at her to do things while they were doing nothing.
Or they're lazy, they're layabouts, and they want her to get a job.
Yeah. They're bitching and moaning. They're there at the feast, and they're like yelling at her. Like, I'm surprised they didn't hear that she was doing the tilling of the land, and they
didn't even look into it.
Did you get paid?
Yeah,
like that's their plan.
Where's your first paycheck?
Yeah. So
make it out to cash.
Bailey runs in. It's true. They did all that work for. Bailey runs in, and he needs to get that picture, but the feast person runs right by May, because she's running. May Parker's running the deal and says, "Oh, Mrs. Parker, I just passing through," and goes into Bailey's locker. One girl, nosy Nelly over here is like, "Young man, you can't go through a resident's locker." He's like, "Listen, I'm a friend of Bailey's. I'm getting this stuff from his deal." She's still complaining, and he just goes off. He grabs this picture and then goes and says, "I'll be back. I'm going to go and show my mom." Well, in the meantime, you do end up having the panel getting mixed up or messed up by Puzzle Man. I didn't really get what was happening at first. I just thought that Bailey was clumsy, but he drops the picture, the frame breaks, and then you end up having Puzzle Man pick it up and says, "Now you're going to have to go through a gauntlet of puzzles. If you don't do it, I erase part of this." I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And then what ends up happening, you have a crossword puzzle, you get a little maze.
Well, you do learn that he was captured by Mr. Negative. I don't know if we knew that.
Yeah, we have that. That was okay.
And then sold to Madame Mem.
Yeah, and that whole place. So in that you have, like I said, you get a maze.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, didn't do it. Then we get a crossword puzzle. Skip that. But in that you end up where Bailey cheats in the maze, and that's where you get Puzzle Man say, "Listen, I didn't tell you to jump like Chris Crossman would have. I told you to go through the maze. You cheated. So with my magic eraser, I'm going to erase part of the deal." I thought he was just going to erase the ice cream that Bailey was holding, but kind of erases. But what does that do? I mean, it just seems to erase the picture.
It's like Back to the Future rules,
you know what I mean?
maybe?
But this is the thing. When he erases the mom's face, because that's what happens. We're just going to skip to that. It's more of the fact that now Bailey can't show her the picture. I don't think it's her erased, but maybe.
Yeah, no, it's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's going to say, "Mom, I have a picture. I have proof." And she's going to be like, "Who is this?"
Magic picture. Or not bad. Magic erase. I could do that with a regular. I could just scribble out any picture. You end up having all this stuff going, and you have one of those things where you have to, hey, what's different from this page and that? Unfortunately, in this, we are dealing with digital review copies that aren't quite as high res. I could barely even see the pictures that they're talking about, and then the whole play of this, though, is Puzzle Man accidentally erases the face of Bailey's mom and says, "Oopsie daisy," and that's that. And then you end up where he says, "Oh no, I'm going." We get a "Where's Waldo? Where's Puzzle Man?" Bailey finds him, grabs the pencil. No, I didn't even bother. I'm an adult.
He's hanging out.
I don't need this crap. I'm going to strangle you for making me read this. I love this book at one point. And these last two issues, it's
it's called Where's Wally in England?
Yeah.
Where's Wally?
Yeah. Can you find Puzzle Man? Where's Puzzle Man? I'm like, I see Bailey right there, and then I see
he's
Puzzle
hanging on the van, the sus van at the bottom.
Seriously, he's whispering. That kid going by with luckily he has earphones on. Puzzle Man's like, "Hey, I got lollipops in here." I got a magic pencil for you to see. Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious! And then uses the eraser so he can't tell. Yep. That's a sus van. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know, like the idea. I love these pictures too, because what are these other guys doing? Trying to push this wall?
Yeah,
like,
through a busy street.
Yeah, they're pushing the wall. And he barely grabs the pencil and then breaks it. In my mind, that's not what you want to do. I would have thought that maybe with the other side, you could draw back the mom, but he breaks the pencil to make Puzzle Man very upset and sad, like he's going to cry. And after all this bull crap, Bailey finally realizes what he should do is go back to the people from the Web of Life and Destiny, which he should have been there the first day. And he ends up, Madam Web, all these, Julia, Arana. He's going to go and say, hey, can you help me? That's it. I mean, he should have been doing that immediately. He didn't, but here he is. Boom. And maybe we'll find out. I don't know how you play this because I think that you lose out if you do find out about him. Everybody remembers him. I don't know. I think that kind of ruins the deal, but I think this is ending in a couple issues. I think the next solicits for September, we will see final issue, or that we already had the final issue. They just didn't say it in August, but we'll see. I like the book at one point. It still could be fun for, younger readers. I'm not young, and I don't have time for puzzles. I'm not a puzzle guy. I'm not Puzzleman. I'm not Chris Crossman.
I think Dan Slott's a New York Times puzzle guy. He does Wordle and all those things.
What I think is he's a lazy. This Puzzle Man deal is just there to lazy it up. He didn't have to write anything. I'm surprised Christos Gage didn't come and help out because there was nothing to it. At the end, it ends up, I don't have the picture now because, again, I don't think you want anybody to remember him. And then he's just going to go off to the Web of Life and Destiny. Nonsense.
Well, speaking of pictures, look at the letters page. Cute kid. He likes the Spider Boy.
Like I said, I think that a lot of kids could like it. But
he's sus, though, because he likes Spider-Punk.
Yeah, here's the thing. This kid's there, and he's like, I want to write in and get in the deal. And his dad's like, listen, we got to play the game here, son. Get out some crap, and we'll put it on the wall. And, I know how to play the game. That's what you do. Though the next cover looks really cool.
Yeah, speaking of covers, next cover amazing. The cover to this issue, hot garbage. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it is bad.
It is really bad. It's just bad.
It's just
it's a puzzle.
Yeah, but like the how the lines are and everything.
Well, it's because he's like they're trying to play.
It's a pencil line, I guess.
I think that what happened is they did it and then realized it sucks. So they're like, well, we'll pretend he's kind of racing. The next cover does have Spider-Punk.
Yeah, it's a Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they're going to go and grab the Spider-Verse stuff and get the cartoon and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it is. But this book has lost its purpose, I think. It's just fun. But I think that it's getting less and less for me and maybe more and more for like a 3-year-old. But that's just my deal. What would you give it?
I'm higher than you. I'm just a flat 7. It's still fine for me.
Again, it's just goofy. I don't know what I'm not expecting too much, but what I am getting is not exactly what I expected.
This was like a calm, cool down issue to resolve some of the stuff, get her back to not being an animal anymore. And
yeah, the whole deal. So I know, but in the deal, you get that everything gets set. And remember I said eventually I thought we were going to get like. As it went, you'd see little things, or maybe, just me, but maybe go back to having a backup since you're charging people as if there is one. That's just me. This book really, that's the magic of the whole deal is that Dan Slott was able to charge that much. They could try with a backup and then kind of get rid of the backup and still do that. So, but that is it for that. You gave it a 7. I could get. Did I give it a 6? I'll go 6.5.
All right.
I really do like it, but I don't like this issue. Just it's the story has run out. It's paper thin, pretty thin. Riggs is what they say.
I could see my 6-year-old nephew liking this.
Yeah.
Why not?
I was just going to insult your nephew, but I don't want to do that.
He's pretty smart, actually.
Yeah, he probably would like. If you're into those puzzles and things, I think it could be pretty fun. But yeah, that just, to me, that was the worst kind of filler. It did remind me of those Jeremy Adams Flash issues where you're turning things around.
No,
I love Jeremy Adams. I did not like that. But,
no.
I'm not here for fun and games. This is serious business, this comic stuff. How dare they try to be fun? But we'll see what everybody else thinks. But with all of that, we're going to go off. Me and Jason are going to be doing another fun issue that we keep getting flack for. But I hope it is better than it has been for other people as well. We will be talking about the Ultimate X-Men, but thanks, Matt, for joining me, and we'll go off to that right now. All right, and since we are at the Ultimate X-Men part of the show, I'm joined by my man, Jason. What up, Jason?
Hey, Jim, it's good to be back talking about this just bright, happy, sunny X-Men comic we got talking about. My goodness.
Yeah, and I will say one thing, that people have been fighting against this. They can't be fighting against it of saying like, oh, it's so all ages and so happy and go lucky, because it certainly
isn't.
Some
dark stuff, yeah. If someone's looking to get, my kid's kind of into comics and I watched the X-Men 97 with him, I'm going to get them this new story about the X-Men. Don't get them this one. No, it's too many questions will be asked. It's just too dark.
Yeah, and I mean, some people are already shaking their head. Yeah, don't get it because it's not really an X-Men comic. We've heard this. I was even talking before we went in. It's just what it is now. We're at issue 4. I think that at this point, we can kind of, come to the conclusion that people who really hated it probably aren't reading it anymore. The people who like it are. We're here to review it.
Except for the people who just enjoy hate reading. And,
there are some hate readers.
Of those on the internet now and then.
I'm telling you, a couple of them. Sometimes I'm one of them. I mean, there are certain things like that, but this book is one of those that people just get very personal in their hate for it.
I think people have an idea what they wanted this to be when they heard the title, and they're just not going to accept it not being that. And it's a very specific kind of thing. We don't love everything about it, but I think we have to at least try to accept it on terms of what it's trying to be, and not just only criticize it for not being the thing that it's not even trying to be.
Yeah, I mean, I will point out a couple things in it of what I was thinking or hoping myself, but in the meantime, I actually enjoy it for a quirky title, a side title. It's a shame that this is the one Ultimate X-Men book right now. I think it would have been better served to have something else before this, and maybe have this as a side deal showing the, Japanese side of things, or at least that whole controlled area.
Yeah, we haven't seen what's been going on there in this universe where the maker has put these different people in charge of different areas, and they never even mentioned that political situation in this book. If you're just reading this book and not like the little intro recap pages, you'd have no idea this isn't plain old Japan.
Yeah, and it's weird because there are people, and I actually even looked it up again because I always forget, and I mentioned you, it doesn't really have that much in play here, but it is at this area of the world, Silver Samurai, Viper, and Sun Emperor that are in control of it in that Maker's Council, but that's kind of in the shadows a bit, or whatever.
The whole place is called Hinokuni, which is like Fireland, Land of Fire, something like that. So it's not even called Japan.
Yeah, and with that, it would have been kind of cool to like have a little bit of flavor of that. Maybe
even
mention who's
in the art, maybe in the names of some of the schools, things like that, just to say, something's a little bit different, a little bit, different universe.
They pledge allegiance to the Sun Emperor. I don't know, but something like that.
Have a flag in the classroom.
Exactly.
That's a little different.
It would have been kind of cool to give you that different flavor. And again, one of the things that I always bring up, even when I'm talking, quote unquote, talking with people about this, is where they, where's this guy? Where's this guy? Where's, that? Well, this is a different universe. So things are, and that's the thing. I think that it's being a little coy in that. So you're not really pushing different universe, different way it's made up, right. The idea. And so
we're not exactly seeing things from Hisako's point of view, but mostly, and she has no idea that she's in this altered universe. So the way things are is the way things are. And as she becomes aware of, mutants existing and stuff going on, I think that's when we're going to let the wider world into this book. At least that's my guess.
Agree. And initially, at one point, you did have a lot of PR, and even I think Peach Momoko herself said everything will open up in issue 4. The solicit actually even says, and I think people may have taken that as, oh, right, we're going to get these tons of characters. It doesn't really open up that much. At the end, you have something happen that could. But that's kind of what this book has been, the idea of us guessing and could and should, and it's kind of a little odd.
I don't often look at solicits, but I did peek ahead, and it seems like it's really going to come to a head, the whole Shadow story in issue 6. So that, I guess, is when this first arc is going to wrap up. That'll probably be the first trade, and maybe that's when I really want some answers about the Shadow guy. We don't even see Glasses in this issue.
No, we get somebody else.
My favorite character isn't even on here.
Yeah, Glasses. My favorite is May Storm. I really do like her, but again, I want more, and that's kind of what I go with overall. The thing that disappoints me the most about this book, more than anything, is I just want more. I want to see more of the characters. I want to know, like you said, open up the world a bit and see what's going on. Not necessarily that I want the classic X-Men team. These are the characters we're going to get. I want more of them. I want to see their
classic
deal.
kind of books. They're coming real soon, folks. Over on the other podcast, we've just wrapped up the Krakoan era. It's done. It's over. So the next books that are coming, they really seem they're going to be not exactly like, Back to the Mansion, that kind of thing, but it's going to be more like X-Men heroes doing X-Men hero kind of things. So if that's what you want, just hang on another month or so, and it'll be in your hands.
Yeah, it looked like back to the Arctic base of Tranquility, what I saw from that little preview. But again, when you go into this book, I understand it doesn't feel like a classic X-Men book, but it is a different universe. It's an ultimate thing. But even I'm starting to wonder, come on, we have to pick things up. And I'm liking it. Like I said, as a quirky type deal, it does still feel more manga than actually X-Men, which I'm fine with. Me and you are both huge manga fans, so we go with that. But I understand.
I wonder if there's discussions on the team of how much to lean into the manga side of things, right? Clearly, you're not going to do the right, left, right thing. I mean, that'd be too far. But as far as we always say the black background meaning a flashback, the way the sound effects are put in, like at the beginning, the very first panels here, it has kin con can con as sound effects, which in manga means the school bells. They bing bong, and so they do kind of go manga-esque there, but in other ways not so much. I'm just wondering what the discussions are internally about that balance.
Yeah, and before, and obviously we're talking before, we're not even into the issue yet, but the idea also, just keep in mind, whatever is going on here with Peach Momoko is not just Peach Momoko coming in and, hijacking something or putting a gun up to Hickman's head and saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is a plan. This is what they want. So the idea of Peach Momoko ruining things, it is part of the overall deal. Maybe she's getting that other flavor, but they ended up getting her because of this. So again, I see a lot of people, even in our YouTube videos, just personally attacking Peach Momoko, is just kind of doing her job and doing what she's doing. And kind of, I don't mind it. I actually like Peach Momoko. So if you don't, then maybe, just move on. I don't know, but here we are. Ultimate X-Men #4, written by Peach Momoko, script adaptation by Zach Davis, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So you have the Peach Momoko show going here, and it's going to keep being subtle with things. You end up where it's exam time. Like you even said, the way that you start out is very, very manga and anime-esque, where you have the bell ringing, and you come from out there, then you go to flowers, then you go to the window, then you go inside. And yeah, May, who I love, she is, the Ferris Bueller of the book. She does not
the most
study.
Studious, yes. And this, again, a classic manga scene where it's exam time, and if you don't do well in the exams, you're going to have to go to, they don't call it summer school, but it's basically, extra classes to get your dumb ass caught up.
If she wasn't such a she should have went to cram school, my favorite thing that they had before that, but she didn't study at all. And you end up having his go like, you didn't study? Like what? And she's like, nope, didn't study. But again, I like her. I like the character. That gives you a little flavor of it, and it plays off well together. But yeah, it's raining. That's a big thing in this, to say, oh my God, it's still raining. It's raining so much these days. It keeps raining. And then when you end up seeing Nico doing her kind of fortune-telling looking in, I like her as well. I'm sure you do. I think that she's a character. I think she's going to be cool.
A bigger part of this as things go forward. She's the only one who so far has used the word mutants, right? Which was the big reveal last time. This is the idea that, that's a word that exists in this universe. And what does she know? How does she know about it? There's some words about, her parents are involved with weird stuff, which, she is the equivalent of one of the Runaways characters from the 616. So parents into weird stuff is kind of part of that deal.
That is very part of the stuff. And we may even find out if they're going to go full out with that. That might be part of the council, might be part of the inner workings of things. We'll have to see.
That would certainly make sense.
That would make sense. And again, I talked to you, and I've said this before, we were talking beforehand, and you said exactly my conclusion of it. But if this would have been a Runaways book, I think people would be more accepting of it being a little quirky.
All 7 people who bought it would
exactly.
Really be enjoying
That's the problem. Nobody would have bought it. And in the meantime, when I even talked about this on other things, I said, that'd be fine and dandy. Nobody would buy it. It'd be canceled, but also people would be bitching. Where's the X-Men? Where's the X-Men? Unfortunately, when you get this is the version that's starting this new universe out. And we have, 2 years, 18 months. You have that whole play before the maker comes back. I'm sure that we will get some of the traditional things, but we may not get the traditional X-Men in the X-Men book, just like Storm and Black Panther. We may end up having, some of them show up in the Ultimates or something like that. I think we will get a lot of them, but they may not all be in this. This is kind of a new deal and go forward, but we might end up getting multiple X-Men books even by the end, and that's nothing that would be crazy, right? But you end up where, Nico, I do really like her, and this whole play of just, hey, do you think that she has powers? Is she pretending? Is she doing this? And through this, even May will keep saying, like, I wish that we could tell people we had powers. I wish that we can have powers. Really, when she's like, I don't really like the school stuff and wants to do it. So
it's kind of reminiscent of like Chainsaw Man in Volume 2, where you say, boy, I wish I could tell people that this girl I like, want to impress this girl I like. And, oh, by the way, I'm Chainsaw Man. No, can't do that.
So you have this whole play where May's like, hey, what are you doing? You want to look up? That she ends up, Hezuko's going to ride her motorcycle home. This gets a little confusing. Me and you are both pretty confused about it because she's driving, the motorcycle looks pretty cool. And then she sees a kid.
Yeah, this kind of emo boy kind of sees him. And then we cut to her at home later in the day. I mean, she's been home for a while because she's made dinner and everything.
Yeah, and she said she had to go and make dinner for her mom. So she is gone and she's doing dinner, right?
So we skip a period of time. And after we skip forward, the mom said, oh, yeah, you cooked good dinner. And then she very conveniently says, oh, by the way, I heard about this guy, Amano. You remember him from middle school, was talking to his mom. He's really depressed because all of his friends just, committed that act of self-harm that we talked about last time. A lot of extreme self-harm in this book.
Yeah, it's a tough one to talk when you're going to make a video on YouTube, right? Oh, it's so crazy. And there is a lot. That's the dark deal. Now, here's the weird play. You end up, she sees this kid. She drives by, kind of stops. They look, he looks, drives by. We get to the scene of her with her mom. This seems like a natural progression later in the day. But then the panel starts creeping into flashback territory of black panels. But we know it's not. Right. But what is it? Because you get a weird thing going on here.
I think that is a flashback because she's in a library now and she's looking at an old yearbook and she sees that same guy. He has the same haircut, a couple years younger. And so she does put together at this point, which I think is post the big incident we're talking about. I think this is
the weird play is, I don't think she's in the library because her mom looks out from the window as she storms off. I just think that might be a room with a bookshelf. Just because, again, I know people will use this as an attack on the deal, but the art is a little bit confusing at this point because it looks like she hears this and then like storms off. Her mom's like, what did I say? And she grabs this, pretty much yearbook, looks through, but as you see the panels going in this dark.
The black background, I think maybe that's just emotional.
Maybe, and because then it fades out again. It's so weird.
Because we're used to reading manga, we're used to seeing black background means flashback, but I guess now it doesn't. I guess this is still, in the dinner time period, and this is when she puts a name to this guy, and she gets, Amano, that name that mom said. I see this picture here with his name, and that matches up with what weird emo kid looked like in the rain outside school today. But then, it seems to be as she's looking at the yearbook, this hand comes in, and in the next panel, she's back outside dressed in her motorcycle gear in the rain, and it's the same arm on her, so where does this arm exist?
And this is what's weird. This is the thing. Her mom, now, she's had a couple problems with the motorcycle. Like but her mom says, oh, you have a scratch on the motorcycle when she comes home. And you're like, but then that seems like it might happen then after that, but pulling her back. And it seems like this hand comes and pulls her back in time to the scene where she first saw this kid. And then it changes what happened going forward. But
it does look like that. I think the best explanation is just this is just showing her memory happening. I don't think an arm is really reaching through time to grab her. Although it's an X-Men book, so who the hell knows?
That's what I'm saying, because she does, like, it's weird. If you go by, she does drive off, and the kid never grabs her, and she goes home. But then when you go and see it again, he's grabbed her, walks away, and then she crashes. That kind of goes into the deal of him laughing. But that could have been the continuation
this
of earlier.
Can't be the next day because the bike is already scratched up.
It seems like he grabs her back
flashback.
in. Yeah. Like I said, the way I go with X-Men is some crazy power.
Either some sort of time travel or just a flashback being shown in a very strange way.
It's so weird the way, and we've had parts of this that we've said last issue. We said that the progression was odd, that there was a weird back and forth when you ended up seeing May's father and all that stuff, like seemed to go jumping through the deal. But the only thing I could say is, okay, if this kid has powers and he's doing this, who knows? And maybe somebody has looked and it's like, oh, that's this character or that, but I can't make any sort of...
No, I wasn't able to make any connection, except he's being influenced by the shadow. And exactly what that means is still unclear to me. Does that mean that he is just possessed by the shadow and this kid doesn't actually know what he's doing? Or we know he's actually really sad because he thinks he knows that his friends had been, connected to Tsubasa, the first friend of Hisako who had, done bad things to himself. So this guy, Amano, thinks, hey, Hisako, she must know something about what's going on. There's something weird here. It's connected to Tsubasa. Tsubasa's connected to Hisako. So I'm going to talk to her and figure out what the hell's going on. But then after he grabs her, she tries to get the hell away. The bike crashes, and that's when the skid happens, when the scratch. And that's when we go into wild and crazy shadow attack world.
Yeah, now we have shadow attack and Tsubasa's head. You're running away again. And you go...
That's a creepy-ass panel.
Yeah, it's really creepy. The whole thing's creepy. And yeah, you see this kid and then the shadow surrounding him. And it's bad. Now, in that, you do have right away, Seiko ends up, armor comes around her and really starts to look like, I actually got pretty cool with this, even though I was worried because this kid, he might be just controlled by the shadow. But then at one point he says, hey, you want to see how Tsubasa did what he did? I'm like, oh my God, that's so awful. But she's protected by the armor. And the armor does at one point look like it grabs the... It's
what is he
crazy,
throwing at her? Is it paper? Is it razor blades?
It looks like a
Where
bunch
do they come from?
Maybe splashing? I don't know. It's so weird. Yeah, it's paper. It seems to come out of maybe the cards and the talismans of the shadow from the room we saw with glasses. I don't know. It gets confusing. But she's going to go and attack and maybe trying to like, I'm going to knock the shadow right out of you, because when the kid starts talking, then it's definitely through the shadow. But
yeah, we get those same weird bubbles with the white on black and the little tendrils coming out of it. So this is, I think earlier was the boy kind of speaking from himself because he has the regular bubbles. I think he really is concerned, but at some point the shadow gets into him and takes over. And now the attack isn't really coming from him, but it's coming from the shadow. He may end up being on the team at well, maybe not.
Maybe,
actually.
Yeah, we'll see, because it's weird because, because at one point the armor, actually, because he's coming, he has a knife in the arm, it grabs the knife, it looks, or at least grabs the shadow, and I thought the kid was going to be free, but he kind of gets it again, but maybe it's less than that, but he says, you want to see how Tsubasa did it? Like this, and puts that deal up to his neck, and you get a slash, and you don't see, but it starts raining blood.
Yeah, we cut up to a close-up of his eye, and we see it's a really scary-looking eye, and then there's some red streaks, and I think and then the next page, we see, it was confusing because it's someone being protected by the armor, and somebody screaming out loud and being attacked by these shadows, and we only have the preview art right now, so maybe it's clearer in the final version.
And
high
you would
resolution.
guess that it would be a Seiko, but I was really hoping it was the kid. I really was hoping the armor went, and like, I'm sure people would have been, oh, you guys stupid, it has to be a Seiko. I was thinking that
we know it doesn't work like that in the 616, but we're not in the 616.
And I was really hoping that she was so wanting to help this kid and try to protect them that the armor ended up enveloping him, but it almost looks like instead it's just keeping the blood from going on.
Yeah, this is just
looks really
protecting
horrific.
her reaction to seeing this horrible thing that the boy just probably did to himself. And then we go forward.
This is weird because if this was something and there was a boy laying there I think somebody would react more to
right.
that.
Because now the crowd show up, taking all sorts of pictures. They see Hisako on the ground, still with the armor stuff kind of around her, not in the full-out samurai armor, but like they talk about, oh, there's pink goop all over her. And they take all these pictures, and if there is a boy lying there in a pool of his own internal fluids on the outside, so maybe he didn't really do it. Maybe that was part of a shadow vision that didn't really happen.
Yeah, and maybe it was something when she got brought to the deal, it wasn't really happening, and it was more the shadow influencing her to try to think it did. I don't know, because you would think they'd react. They'd be like, oh my God, like that'd be the thing. Not,
I'm going back and forth these pages,
Gil.
zooming around, trying to see, oh, do we see a body on the ground in the background? But no, I don't think it's there.
And I think even May would say, because May shows up, you even have Nico, and everybody's kind of walking, looks like, home from school at this point, and they're all taking pictures with their phones. The big play here, though, even though May will say, oh, I wish everybody would know about it, powers and things like that, she doesn't want people to know the secret. Hisako, so she ends up using her powers to
she doesn't
fry
want
things.
this kind of embarrassing situation. I mean, I think especially in Japan or whatever this place is called, the idea of this you becoming kind of famous on social media this kind of way, probably not the greatest thing. So yeah, May Storm tries to she zaps out all the cell phones,
all the cell phones,
voids all the warranties,
and also just to point out, shocks the hell out because it's raining. And there's some people, they wake up, they're like, what the heck happened? I just passed out.
You see all their hair go crazy like they're in a Van de Graaff machine.
Yeah, so they're like, oh my God, my phone, it's bricked. Oh, and it seems like that's, she would stop that because she yells, stop filming. She said, stop filming. And she ends up attacking. And so all these people are like, oh my God. And then you even see May like helping get the bike up and things like that for Hisako, but then you end up going and flipping to a girl who seems to be on a terrace type field, maybe looking.
She was nearby. She kind of appears in the background of one of the earlier panels, and so this is a girl who was watching and videotaping or taking pictures.
That's where you get the filmed one,
And we see weird things happen. She's got these kind of big metal rings on one hand, and she seems to attract some of May's lightning, turn it into a little crunchy ball, and she eats it like a pop rock.
I said it was like a pop rock, and it even pops when she bites down on a pretty cool panel. And you said that you're pretty sure it's who.
This is going to be, I'm pretty sure, the mutant named Surge, or this universe's version of that, because Surge, she can absorb electricity, and she uses it to do her own electrical powers to give herself super speed and some other stuff. And in the 616, she has metal gauntlets she uses to help control her power that are made by Beast. So I think these clunky rings on her hand are just the version of that. And also she has blue hair, and blue hair is also a Surge thing.
And she looks pretty cool. And again, we'll see what this means, how we go forward, because then we go back to school a few days later. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem like many people are really that reacting to Hisako, even from the thing, but she starts getting beep, 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 because as they get the test back, it is May.
Gotta turn that off in class there.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And May failed. And she's like, make up class again. I don't have time for this. I wish I could tell people we have powers. And it's almost like that, be careful what you wish for, because then boom, you end up, her phone starts beeping, and she looks and says, oh my God, there's a picture of me with the armor. How could this go out? It's going viral. And you end up having May said, I fried everyone's phone. This is impossible. And she says, not everyone's. This is bad. And you see the X button, too, by the way, on May again. So that's kind of a cool play. But in that, it looks like it's going out, and people are going to wonder how this power is. And this might get into the wrong upper hands. And maybe they'll have to do something.
Which makes me wonder what Surge's or this girl, if she is Surge, is trying to accomplish. Like, if she has a mutant power, you might think, well, she wants to keep everybody's mutant power quiet for her own protection, or what is she trying to accomplish by spreading this?
It is kind of the funny thing of maybe she wants it to get, like we said about Chainsaw Man, and even what May says, kind of joking. I wish I could tell. Maybe this is the way for her to be able to say, hey, I can get it out there, or maybe she has something against her. I don't know.
Is Surge going to be a villain? Is she going to eventually join whatever team is coming together? I guess, we'll have to wait and see.
It's funny, like, when you see the little bit of her from that profile, she just looks kind of like, whatever. She doesn't seem that fired up about anything, but we'll have to see. And says things just got a whole lot more fun around here when she sees that and films And like you said, the cool thing is she films physical, but also grabs some of the energy from May. So obviously she knows what May can do as well, and ends up, doing that. So we'll have to see. Seems just like a teen girl type thing.
It doesn't seem like this is brand new to her, right? So she's been using this power for a while. She has some equipment. She's very nonchalant about eating the electricity. So she's been doing things for a little while, and she's been kind of apparently keeping things quiet. So I wonder what her deal is.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what it is. But again, overall, part of this review that we did, we were confused of a big part of it. So I have to put that in my score. But still liked it more than the last issue. And
Agreed.
Not that it opens up everything, but you get Surge, you get this other kid. I kind of wish or hope that he could have continued. Maybe that could have been something cool. But I like the character of May. Things are getting out and about. Like I said, maybe this leads to something, big in maybe Nico's parents, like we said, the runaway deal, or it could go even higher because this world, there's no X-Men, there's no mutants, it seems, and this might be a big thing that is cool to some people, but maybe something that other people want to squash that could end up, upping the ante of it. But again, it's still kind of going pretty slow. But what would you give it?
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on. I like some of the mysteries, and I'm not quite sure how much of my desire to know what's behind the mysteries is that me reacting to good writing or just too slow
not
writing.
Knowing it, and you need it.
Yeah. There are some clunky bits, like what is going on with that arm coming through time? Is that real? What's the weird way it's being written in flashbacks, but not flashbacks? It's just a little bit clunkier. I think some of the mechanics are getting in the way of the storytelling just a little bit. But I like the way it looks. I like that it looks different from every other Marvel book in the entire world. I think that's fun. And yeah, I want to see what happens next. I want to see Glasses back. I want to know who the hell this Shadow guy is and how he's controlling and who he can control and who he can't. I want to know more. So that's mostly a good thing. Just kind of a slower burn than I would like. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
I'm a 7 as well. I'm a 7. I think that we gave the last issue a 6. So we're back up to a 7. Still, again, I understand why people complain, but here we are. We're at issue 4. And I am enjoying it. I ended up, when the review copies came in that we end up being fortunate to get, I did read this first. I ended up wanting to see what was going on, maybe hoping for a little bit more. But when I get it, it is something that I'm interested in enough that it's the first book from Marvel that I will read when it comes out. So that's something as well. So hopefully, people that enjoy it keep enjoying it, and maybe it'll be able to turn some people on eventually.
One of those books that reads better in like the first trade. You read the first trade all together, you kind of get the concept. And then maybe after that, month to month, it feels more satisfying.
Yeah, my hope is that we're doing this legwork. It is a little slow. We get it done, and then boom, it hits good. And then we'll get some people saying, oh my God, I wrote that off after 2 issues, but I'm going to go back because it seems cool now. It could happen. I know that there's people like, it's never going to happen, but it can. You just have to start opening up the world a bit, and we just haven't gotten there yet and really, put out that big. Once we find out who the Shadow King or whatnot, and then develop that, I think that it will be pretty cool. And we're here each time it comes out. Anyway, we're reviewing it, but I'd still be reading it if I wasn't reviewing it. I'm interested, like you said, more of a quirky type deal. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get more X-Men. But that's that.
Weird science is the revolution.